The rhythm of the heartbeat alarm clock did not sound like an enemy to Marcus anymore. It sounded like an invitation. At 5:30 a.m., the world was completely silent. The streetlights outside his window cast a pale glow over his running shoes, which sat by the door like waiting soldiers. 3 years ago, Marcus would have rolled over, pulled the blanket tighter, and ignored the call. Back then, his body felt heavy, his mind felt cluttered, and his energy was a depleting battery that never fully charged. Today, he was a different man. He was an athlete not because he won medals, but because he understood the language of his own body. Marcus stepped outside into the crisp morning air. He began with a slow, deliberate dynamic warm-up. He rolled his ankles, swung his legs, and woke up his nervous system. He knew that jumping straight into a hard effort was a mistake. The human body is a complex machine, and you do not floor the gas pedal of a cold engine. As his feet hit the pavement in a steady rhythm, Marcus reflected on how much misinformation he had consumed when he first started his journey. He remembered reading magazine covers that promised to melt fat fast, and advertisements for pills that claimed to block calories. He had tried them all. He had starved himself on extreme diets, drinking nothing but green juice, and he had sprinted until his lungs burned and he threw up. None of it had worked. He had lost weight initially, but it was mostly water and precious muscle tissue. He had felt miserable, weak, and irritable. It wasn't until he met Coach Elena at the local community track that he finally learned the science of how the body actually burns fat. Marcus, Elena had told him, watching him lean against a fence, gasping for air after a series of frantic sprints. You are treating your body like an enemy you want to punish. You need to treat it like a partner you want to train. Fat loss is not about torture. It is about biochemistry. Elena had explained to him the concept of energy balance, but more importantly, the zones of exercise. Marcus learned that the body uses two primary fuel sources: carbohydrates and fats. Carbohydrates are like kindling wood. They burn fast, hot, and are easy for the body to access, especially during high-intensity efforts like sprinting or heavy lifting. Fat, however, is like a thick log on a campfire. It takes longer to catch fire, but it provides a massive, sustained source of energy if you know how to kindle it. As Marcus reached the 2-mile mark of his run, his breathing was steady. He could have easily carried on a conversation with someone running next to him. This was zone to. In the past, Marcus thought that if an exercise didn't leave him completely exhausted, it wasn't working. But Elena showed him the data. When you exercise at a moderate intensity, around 60 to 70% of your maximum heart rate, your body enters the optimal fat oxidation zone. In this state, your cells have enough oxygen available to efficiently break down stored fatty acids and convert them into adenosine triphosphate, or ATP, the cellular currency of energy. If he ran too fast, his body would panic, run out of oxygen for fat metabolism, and switch entirely to burning sugar, leaving him exhausted and starving an hour later. By keeping his pace controlled, Marcus was turning his body into a fat-burning furnace. He felt a wave of steady, clean energy washing over him. It was a feeling of absolute control. By 7 a.m., Marcus was back in his apartment, pouring a glass of water. The exercise was only the first part of the equation. He knew that you could never outrun a bad diet. An hour of running might burn 600 calories, but a single bakery pastry could replace those calories in less than 2 minutes. He opened his refrigerator and pulled out his breakfast components: 3 eggs, half an avocado, and a large bowl of spinach. Noticeably absent were the sugary cereals and white bread he used to consume. Marcus understood that to burn fat, his hormonal environment had to be just right. The key hormone in this equation was insulin. When we eat highly processed carbohydrates, sugars, and white flour, our blood sugar spikes. In response, the pancreas secretes a large amount of insulin to clear the sugar from the blood. But insulin is a storage hormone. When insulin levels are high, the body locks the doors to its fat stores. It refuses to burn fat because it has too much sugar to deal with. By focusing his diet on whole foods, lean proteins, healthy fats, and fibrous vegetables, Marcus kept his insulin levels stable. This allowed his body to easily access his fat reserves for energy throughout the entire day, even while he was sitting at his office desk. Protein was his secret weapon. He made sure to get a serving of protein with every single meal. Protein has a high thermic effect, meaning the body actually has to expend energy and burn calories just to digest it. Furthermore, protein preserved his lean muscle mass. This was the lesson that took the longest to sink in. Muscle is active tissue. Every pound of muscle on Marcus's body required calories just to exist. Fat tissue, on the other hand, just sits there. By building and maintaining muscle, Marcus had increased his basal metabolic rate. He was burning more calories every hour of the day. Even while he slept out in the afternoon, Marcus went to the gym. He didn't head to the rows of dusty treadmills. Instead, he walked straight to the weight room. He approached the barbell resting on the squat rack. He loaded the plates, took a deep breath, and stepped under the bar. Resistance training was the cornerstone of his lifestyle. While cardio sessions burned fat during the workout itself, heavy lifting created a phenomenon known as epic excess post-exercise oxygen consumption. When Marcus lifted heavy weights, he created microscopic tears in his muscle fibers. His body had to work incredibly hard over the next 24 to 48 hours to repair those muscles, synthesize new proteins, and restore chemical balances. This required oxygen and energy. For up to 2 days after an intense lifting session, Marcus's metabolism remained elevated. He was burning extra fat while resting on his couch, reading a book, or working on his computer. He completed his sets of squats, deadlifts, and overhead presses. He didn't use light weights for high repetitions, which was another myth he used to believe. He lifted heavy, challenging his body to grow stronger. He focused on compound movements that recruited multiple joint complexes and massive muscle groups at once. The more muscles involved, the higher the metabolic demand, and the greater the fat-burning signal sent to his body. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across his living room, Marcus prepared for the final, and perhaps most overlooked, pillar of his fat loss journey: recovery. He checked his smartwatch. It showed he had taken 12,000 steps over the course of the day, including his morning run and walks during his lunch break. This non-exercise activity, or NEAT, was another crucial factor. He realized that staying active throughout the day by taking the stairs and walking to the market was just as important as his structured workouts. It kept his circulation moving and his daily energy expenditure high without adding systemic stress. But now, it was time to turn the system off. Marcus dimmed the lights in his apartment. He turned off his television and put his smartphone away 2 hours before bed. He knew that chronic stress and lack of sleep were the absolute killers of fat loss. When a person is sleep-deprived, the body produces higher levels of cortisol, the stress hormone. Cortisol triggers a primitive survival response that signals the body to hold on to fat stores at all costs, particularly around the abdomen. High cortisol also spikes ghrelin, the hunger hormone, while suppressing leptin, the hormone that signals fullness. In his early days, Marcus would sleep for 5 hours, drink 3 cups of coffee to wake up, and wonder why he was constantly craving sugar and fast food by 3 p.m. His biology was simply fighting against his willpower. Now, he prioritized 7 to 8 hours of high-quality sleep every single night. It was during deep sleep that his body released human growth hormone, repaired his muscles, balanced his blood sugar, and optimized his fat-burning systems for the next day. He climbed into bed, feeling a deep, satisfying physical tiredness. His muscles felt warm and alive. His mind was clear and peaceful. Marcus' journey wasn't about a quick transformation or a temporary summer diet. It was a complete shift in his identity. He had stopped looking for shortcuts, hacks, and magic solutions. He had embraced the steady, predictable laws of biology and physics. By combining consistent zone to cardiovascular exercise, heavy resistance training, a diet based on whole foods and adequate protein, and deep, restorative sleep, he had cracked the code. He closed his eyes, listening to the slow, steady rhythm of his heart. It was the sound of an engine running perfectly. He fell asleep, knowing that even in the quiet dark of the night, his body was working, burning fuel, and preparing to greet the next morning with strength, vitality, and purpose. If you would like to explore this topic further, let me know what your specific fitness goals are, e.g., losing weight, gaining muscle, increasing endurance. How much time per week you can dedicate to exercise. If you have any dietary restrictions or health conditions I should know about, I can help you build a personalized strategy based on these details.